All right, so we're back. It's what, week 2 on this now?
Week two.
Damn, that's crazy. Yeah, so this is fun. So we're kind of doing like a little weekend recap, and then we got some other like little topics to chat about. So yeah, I mean it was crazy. I had a friend by the shop this morning, and we were kind of chatting and kind of discussing some kind of competition, and products and stuff on the market, and she brought up it was like how it's kind of wild that we can stay, as a made in USA brand, we can stay competitive, if not be kind of cheaper than some of those other brands, like our Black Spider per se is, like it's $40 cheaper than the like comparable from the competition. How does that happen?
Yeah, so I think that part of my goal with Northwest Alpine has always been to prove that that we can make things here in the U.S. and still keep the pricing in reach for normal Americans, normal people. A lot of made in USA product is priced high, and a lot of times for various reasons it has to be. But I think if we could look at I think a good way to think about it is look at our competition that makes their products overseas, and we can look at we know what their labor costs are. We know how long it takes to make a product. We know how much that they're paying the factories for that. And then we can look at their sales price, and we see that their margins are very big. And you can kind of look at, you can look at the financials for publicly held companies and see, because there's a number of outdoor brands that are publicly traded. And so you can see what their profits are and all of that. And then you can look at a privately held company, and of which there's one big one in the industry, and you can look at the actions of their shareholder or owner, and see that when you make enough margin on your products that you can buy half of Chilean Patagonia and own all sorts of other real estate, all while you're, by your company's own admission, less than 40% of your workers in the factories that make your product are making a living wage.
And what is that living wage?
Yeah. I don't know. So,
It's not much.
you know, if you're taking that much money out of the company, if you're making that much money and taking that much money out, there's nothing moral or ethical or responsible about that. Does that make sense?
Right. Totally. Totally.
So a lot of that cost is, a lot of that retail pricing is in the amount of money that goes to the owners of the company. And I'm not saying that business owners should not make money, because they should. It's, it's risky, it's hard, it's, everything, they deserve to be compensated well, but there's a difference between being compensated well and
Disgustingly
being
well.
disgustingly greedy, basically. And so if you've been around for 50 years and, only 30% of the workers in your factories are making a living wage, yet you've taken all this money out of the business, I think that there's something wrong with that. So how that relates to us is that we're charging the same amount of money, only more of that money, more of the cost of the product is going to the people that are making it, and less at the end of the day is going to me as the owner of the company. I fully believe in markets and capitalism, and I want to make money, and and all of that. But at the end of the day, am I going to feel good about being a business owner that screws over the people that make my product, the most important people in the company? No.
I think the cool thing too is I mean that money goes right back into the factories that we're using right here in the U.S. It goes right back in the mills, etc. Everywhere that we get source our materials, it's more money that we pay, but ultimately it goes right back into the community, and that's kind of it's a snowball effect, right? The workers get paid, and then that goes right back into the U.S. economy, and it's great.
It's really a kind of virtuous cycle. So when a lot of the sale price of a product goes to the owners or the shareholders of the company, they aren't big consumers. They're, investing in different financial assets and that sort of stuff. But a lot of that wealth is not being cycled back into the local economy or even into the U.S. economy. So, when you do buy a made in the USA product, all all the money that you're spending is going to American companies. It's going to American workers, and then there is this like multiplier effect, as your workers are spending money in the local economy, factory workers spending money in the local economy, and all of that. So, more so we're selling things for the same retail price or even a little less. Our margins are still good. Like our margins still make us money, but less of that profit is going to the top and more is going to the people that
Yeah. Well, it's
making
just
the products.
yeah, it's cool to think about it in a way that you're taking care of your neighbor, and I think that's great. So,
Yeah, and I think that we've lost that a lot. It's a big like 1980s thing where it's like the only thing that matters in a company is you have to do everything to improve shareholder, to whatever, promote shareholder value and all of that. But that divorces a company from every other responsibility that they should have, which an economy needs to support everybody in it. And I think that we're seeing now that it's not. And, our country is really struggling. And I think that, that's a missing part of the conversation because it benefits big businesses. It benefits the already wealthy. It benefits people that own assets and, screws over everybody else when you don't do that. So, like in the beginning in the U.S., there was, companies were mandated in their corporate charters that they had to benefit the public. And you could have your charter revoked if your company did not benefit the public. Can you imagine that happening now? None of these businesses would exist because they do not promote the public goods. So,
yeah, it's crazy. I want to segue here, but yeah, like you started chatting about the '80s and stuff, and you kind of got down a rabbit hole this past week of kind of pre-'80s, whatever, getting down
the 30s and 40s.
30s and 40s, yeah. What the heck was all that about?
So I just started looking for some reason. I don't even remember like why, but started looking at World War II era propaganda posters, and they were really interesting. So there were a couple kind of interesting things that stuck out to me looking at those. And one is how focused on production a lot of them were, right? Like, so, World War II was one because of the sheer amount of stuff that we were able to make. Like all of our factories were converted to wartime, making shit. And, at one point I was reading, we cranked out something like between 1941 and 1944, it was something like 2,200 Liberty ships, the big like 450-foot long ships.
Crazy.
They were taking in 1943, they'd gotten the production time down to 42 days to make one of those.
What?
And they were cranking out 3 a day.
That's
like
insane.
3 a day coming off the line.
Insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. Can we do that now?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I think I was trying to find how many ships we made like this year. I think it was like 7 or something. Like
crazy.
So most of like those World War II era shipyards have been mothballed, and we just don't have the capacity. And we're struggling to supply Ukraine and Israel and whatever, like these kind of regional conflicts, we're struggling to supply them with munitions. Like we're running out of stockpiles and we can't replenish them fast enough. And so what happens if there's I'm not obviously pro-war.
No, we are
like
not
that.
pro-war. We are
Definitely
not pro-war.
But, are we ready if there is a broader conflict or, not even necessarily war, but what happens if, there's some bigger like climate related disasters or anything really, like you see the Houthis in Yemen launching missiles at ships in the Red Sea trying to go through the Suez Canal. Like, that's obviously messing things up. Anyway, so there's a bazillion things and things that we're not even thinking of that could potentially, mess up global supply chains. And if that happens, what are we going to do, right? Like, we don't have the capacity to make a lot of the stuff that we need.
Our supply chains just aren't ready.
To have our society function, right? Like, for me, it's like a preparedness thing, really. Like, what, because I can foresee, like, we saw what happened in 2020, right? And maybe I'm sensitive to this because, like, we were right there on the front lines of, like, making PPE and, overnighting hundreds of thousands of gowns to hospitals because they didn't, doctors didn't have them when they needed them, didn't have it and they needed it because the exports were cut off. Like, that could happen so easily overnight. And, what are we going to do if that does happen again?
Totally. Yeah, I think it's crazy. There was a congressional hearing that I was kind of watching and listening to, and I think one of the quotes that stuck out to me, like, on the topic of just, like, our manufacturing capacity right now, that they stated it's grossly inadequate, and, like, yeah, it's a little scary for sure. But yeah, I mean, we want to see, more American manufacturing. Like, those are things that, we're excited about. This past week we had the opportunity to go up to Portland to go kind of tour some friends' facility and go up there for a conference on sustainability. But yeah, it was really cool going up to see Chris King. They make precision components for bicycles, like headsets, hubs, bottom brackets, etc. And they kind of do it with like a made for life ethos, which is really cool. All their stuff is serviceable, and they really are cognizant of sustainability and the waste that they put in the environment. But yeah, it was really cool to see things just getting made, and I think I want to see more of that.
Yeah, so the thing at Chris King was a event they were doing about manufacturing and sustainability. I thought it was interesting. One of the other folks that was in the audience was asking a question about what do you say, like, because there's a lot of small businesses, like we're, compared to like the broader economy, whatever, we're like small, like nothing. How does this become a bigger thing? Like, given the, just immensity, the status quo of globalization and all of that. And I was thinking about it, like, there really isn't any, there's no government policy that can change this, because how are politicians funded? And, it's by the large corporations that have, vested interest in maintaining the globalization status quo. Like, is it going to be consumers, right? Like, can we figure out how to drive enough demand for American-made products? I don't know. Probably not. Like, there's huge marketing budgets, huge, like, everything is kind of against what we're trying to do.
We're fighting the odds.
But I think that, like, it's going to happen because it has to. Mm-hmm. Right, like, our planet can't sustain all the shit that's being made overseas. That's able to be made because of subsidies and
lack of regulation,
all of that sort of
transportation, etc.
Like, so I think it's going to happen. Are we ready for it to happen now? No, definitely not. But I think that we need to get ready. Like, and I feel like everything that's happening, they look like the rise of Shein and Temu, and those kinds of things are doing the opposite of what we need to be doing. So I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. It was an awesome conference. Some of the really great, like-minded small business owners and makers in the Portland space. Yeah, we're grateful to go. It was really cool. We got an invite from Kirby Bedsall, who's the GM CEO of Chris King, and grateful for him too. I mean, shout out to Kirby. He's been a longtime supporter of Northwest Alpine. Someone dedicated to our product. Their brand aligns with ours in a lot of ways, and Kirby's been a big advocate. He's always out there riding bikes, big family guy, and he's out skiing and doing ski patrol and all that stuff. So really putting our gear to the test, and yeah, we're stoked for him.
Shout out to Kirby.
Shout out to Kirby. Yeah. So thanks for having us up there. That was a blast. So yeah, what's anything cool on the agenda coming up? I think we got something going on tonight, right?
Yeah, we got our a little open house gathering tonight.
Yeah, pretty cool. Opening the doors, having some friends, family in the community over for a little housewarming party. Got to break in the new space. So excited about that. Yeah, have some drinks with some friends and show them what we've been up to. Because yeah, there's looking around here, there's a lot of change that's happened over the last month or so that we're stoked on, and I think other people will be pretty psyched to see.
Definitely.
So yeah, pretty excited. So I think that pretty much concludes this week. So yeah, stoked to chat and recap what the heck we've been doing, because I think this is good. Holds us accountable to doing cool stuff and
Yep.
having good conversations here.
Let us know if you have any questions. Post a comment.
Yep. Subscribe.
Follow
us on Instagram.
Slam the subscribe button.
Slam that. All right, we'll see you next week.